Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniela Mendoza, and I'm the Storytelling Chair.
And my name is Asta Panigrahi, and I'm the Storytelling Mentor Coordinator.
And on behalf of all Changemaker, let me welcome you to Ignite. For those that don't know, Changemaker is a student-led organization that plans events just like this one, under 4 pillars: service, sustainability, entrepreneurship and innovation, and service.
Before we get started with the show, we have a land acknowledgement video from the People's Indigenous Coalition. We'd like to thank the People's Indigenous Coalition for that video. Before we get this show started, we'd like to warn you that some of the topics may be heavy or sensitive in some form, and they may elicit an unwarranted response. If this is the case, we would like to offer the ASU 24/7 counseling services. They are available online and by phone.
And with that, we'd like to welcome our first speaker.
Hello, my name is Mallory Moss, and I'd like to share a story with you. Callie Hanover is a princess of the Kingdom Deli. She's smart, kind, and dedicated, but she feels alone. Callie Hanover was me. Now, obviously, I'm not a princess, and as cool as it would be to live in a science fiction story, I clearly don't. And unlike Callie, the young protagonist in my first novel, I have the most amazing, supportive family who is always there for me. But among my peers, I felt alone. Let's borrow some science fiction technology and travel back in time to 6th grade at Fort Mojave Elementary. Brick buildings line the grassy soccer field where my friends and I spent recess. My friends are laughing as they pass the ball, and I cheer as one of them scores a goal. My friends. See, here's the issue. I had friends, but I wasn't really one of them. They were popular. I was not. They were athletic. I was too, but I wasn't very passionate about it. They wore cute outfits, and I wore Hello Kitty shirts and bright pink shorts. But it was okay. Everything was okay because I had friends. Until I didn't. A classmate, someone I trusted but didn't spend much time with, caught me before class one day. He told me that my friends were talking about me behind my back. Now, I won't go into details, but the gist was they were only friends with me to get answers on homework. I could have ignored this, locked this knowledge away, and went on with my life. I didn't. How could I be friends with people who were only using me? So now, here I was. The end of 6th grade, a friendless introvert, and not at all someone who could fit in. I started 7th grade, new school, new group of people, but still no friends. I was the class know-it-all with bright pink shorts, frizzy hair, and thick glasses. All I needed was braces, and I would have been the stereotypical nerd in every movie. The teachers all loved me. My peers didn't. Before, at least, I had friends outside of school in soccer. But this year, I made the B team. New group of people, new coaches, new position, bench warmer. Slowly, my little circle of friends shrunk until it was just me. So I created a world I could escape to, a world where I wasn't just the nerd with the frizzy hair. My new world existed in the pages of a Google document, and the characters I created became my friends and my mentors. I wrote to vent. I wrote to rejoice. I wrote when I really wanted to cry, and I wrote when I was so stressed I could hardly think. When I was faced by bullies in middle school, I wrote about powerful female characters who stood up for themselves. When I was anxious about upcoming tests, I channeled that anxiety into writing high-stakes scenes like daring heists or dangerous missions. Even after I made friends in my classes, I continued to write throughout 8th and 9th grade, and I rarely felt upset or alone. That sense of isolation came back sophomore year when my closest friend left my school. My classes were intense and challenging, and I struggled to raise my first ever C back up to an A. Coincidentally, this period of time was my first ever hiatus from writing. You see, I had made up my mind freshman year that I was going to be an author, but I was attacked by self-doubt over the summer and eventually gave up writing altogether. I wasn't me. Before, I'd been able to manage my stress. Now, my stress mastered me. Before, I'd made time to see my friends. Now, I was back to where I started years ago, introverted, isolated, and alone. And then one day, I opened up a blank document, and I thought to myself, why not? All of my frustration and stress was poured into the pages of a novel, and as the words piled up, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. My outlet was back. I wasn't bottling everything up anymore. I poured my soul into those pages, and it manifested in science fiction plots and broken characters. And the more I wrote, the better things got. I raised my C back up to an A. I made time to see my friends. My stress faded from a loud roar to a dull hum. I continued to write through junior and senior year, and those were two of the happiest years of my life. And I realized that writing isn't just a dream career. It's something I can do every day to help me boost my mood and stay positive. And it's something you can do too, each and every one of you. Poetry, fiction, journaling, all simple things you can do to face your stress. But see, here's the thing. Writing is my outlet, but each of you have your own outlet too. And it is so crucial that you make time for that outlet, whether it be kayaking or hiking or watching Netflix with your friends. Because when you spend your time doing something that you enjoy, it lifts a weight off your shoulders. And the world you face without your burdens is so much brighter. I might have been Callie Hanover once, but I never will be again. And hopefully, neither will you. Thank you.
I come from a multicultural background. My mom is Cambodian and Chinese, a refugee from the Khmer Rouge. My dad is Black, born in Compton into a proud Navy family. After his service, my grandpa relocated the family to Arizona, where I was born and raised. In 3rd grade, I learned that there are stereotypes for each of my ethnicities. When I successfully completed the timed multiplication tests, it was because I was Asian. When I was reading aloud in class and mispronounced a word, it was because I was Black. In middle school, the stereotypes began to include behavioral patterns too. If I declined an invite to hang out with friends after school, it was assumed I said no because my tiger mom would say no. And when the teacher asked me to lower my voice or to stop socializing in the middle of a lesson, my peers would snicker and say, "She's so Black." These academic and behavioral stereotypes followed me into high school. It happened so often, I gave up. It was pointless trying to explain to people why calling me half-breed was inappropriate. They were just gonna do it again tomorrow. I really looked forward to college, a brand new place where I could have a fresh start and meet people who look like me. At Arizona State, I found that. The ASU Tempe campus made my K-12 community pale in comparison. No pun intended.
I was eager to connect with my Asian and Black peers by joining some of the different clubs that ASU had to offer. Unfortunately, I struggled to find acceptance there too. Skin too dark, hair too curly, I didn't look Asian enough to be a member of an Asian academic society. And conversely, I was perceived as a light skin who spoke white. And since I grew up in the suburbs, there was no way I could possibly understand the real struggle of Black folk. I was rejected by both groups. I chose to leave these clubs and create my own relationships with people organically. And that was definitely easier, but people still ask me, Kari, what are you? With the more uncomfortable follow-up, but like, which are you more of? Dude, I'm both. I am not a stereotype. I don't fit a cookie-cutter mold of either of my ethnicities. I'm not just one race, and I'm not one race more than the other. I am Asian, and I am Black. But what did that really mean to me? After graduating, I took some time to explore each of my different cultures. I learned new family history and ethnic history. I was talking to my aunts a lot more, and they shared stories of my grandparents and their lives together in Cambodia. And I've been bugging my mom for her recipes, and I've been cooking a lot more Asian food on my own, and it is so good. I hosted my family for Lunar New Year at my place for the first time this year, and my whole apartment was decorated with red and gold lanterns, prosperity symbols, and even had little envelopes for Year of the Rat. My sisters came over and we spent all day prepping food: egg rolls, pot stickers, fried rice, firecracker shrimp, bao, dumplings. And I was so proud to present these traditional meals on my brand new china plates. Together, it was a really proud moment for me. I brought honor to my family and my ancestors. Also this year, I learned Juneteenth is a holiday commemorating the freeing of the last slaves in Texas, which happened 3 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. I celebrated for the first time with an at-home cookout, which was ribs, watermelon, and red juice, and I tuned into the Smithsonian stream of their historian explaining the history and significance of the holiday. In light of the recent police brutality protests, I've taken a step back to research my local policies, contact my representatives, and most importantly, vote. But keeping up with current events has challenged my mental health. I've had to create new coping mechanisms for anger, anxiety, grief, and fear. These weren't feelings I ever had about the color of my skin before, and it took a lot of courage to share these things with my support circle. Together, we acknowledge my emotions as valid, talk through why I'm feeling that way, but even after it's all out, I still have to choose to let go of that pain and discomfort. It's a choice I have to make every day, and it isn't easy. Ultimately, I find peace in my faith and love in His grace. Each of my recent cultural learning experiences have made me more confident in my duality. My identity cannot be reduced to a stereotype or physical appearance of just one of my ethnicities. I am unique. And the next time someone asks me, which are you more of, I'm gonna tell them I'm both. I'm twice as nice. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dane Van Wagenen, and I'm a freshman here at ASU. I'd like to start off today with a question. Have you ever felt yourself looking into the mirror and not recognizing the person looking back at you? Simply seeing a ghost or a person with a mask on, and not a mask like you all are wearing, that's all too normal now, but a mask from the tip of the head to the chin. Well, last year, the beginning of my senior year of high school, that's exactly how I felt. My life was in shambles. My mom was recently admitted into rehab for an alcohol addiction. My father was homeless, living out of his car. My sister was dealing with a multitude of mental illnesses, and I didn't know what to do. I was struggling with every single financial and emotional aspect you could as a young 17-year-old, and I was failing. And it showed in my grades. They immediately dropped. My heart was broken after ending a relationship because I couldn't deal with the stress. I was losing friendships in my group because I simply wasn't going out anymore. I lost my starting spot on the soccer team. I was doing horribly in all the clubs I was involved with. I was even the student body president, and the vice president had to take over a lot of my duties because I didn't have the mental capacity to handle them. My employer even asked, Dane, what's wrong? Where is the Dane we know can be successful? And I had the same answer for all of them, or the lack thereof. I didn't know. I said it was fine. Everything's fine. The typical, I'm fine, when you're not actually fine. I would continue this process, waking up every morning, throwing on the mask, looking in the mirror, being like, who is that? I don't even know anymore. I was just stuffing my plate full and taking every emotion and problem I had and stuffing it and compiling it into this tiny little ball, shoved in the back of my brain, hoping to not see it on a daily. But that doesn't last forever. That's simply a temporary solution. And I began to feel those deep, dark thoughts a lot of people do when they experience those same pains. I was like, my life is not value anymore. I can't provide help to those I love, like my family. I can't help myself. I'm useless on this earth. I serve no purpose. And I contemplated taking my life as if it would help others. And it came to the one day, sitting in the back of my AP biology class, asleep. At the end of the class, bing, bing, the bell goes. I'm still asleep. My teacher comes up to me, wakes me up. Dane, what's wrong? You haven't been yourself. I immediately start bawling. Tears floor through my face. And I open up. I spill my guts out to her. I tell her everything. All of my issues I've been dealing with my family, my emotional, and even my deep thoughts I've been considering. And she was the one that was kind and listened. And as I recollect this moment upon stage today, I remember just feeling better automatically, knowing that someone has put that life preserver around me. And it was a chain of help. She reached out to all my teachers, then reached out to my counselors, who went to the dean, and even the principal. And immediately, I was hit with a tsunami of support and love that I needed. Not only financially was I be able to go on my student council trip, my band tour, my soccer away games, pay my fees for even my AP and dual enrollment classes, I was assisted emotionally. I met daily with my guidance counselors, and I learned tips and tricks on how I can overcome all these obstacles and find myself again, and realize I do matter, and the world does need us, as they need all of us. And it just went up from there. It was that life-changing moment. And so the reason I share this story with you today is because I know that everyone has problems and issues, and it doesn't matter the significance of these problems. It doesn't matter if it's the loss of a loved one or as simple as an extra hard math problem you need a little assistance on. They can all take a detrimental toll on our mental health. And as you see the equation above, you could put anything on the other side of that equal sign. Family, financial, college, it all equals the stress monster, which can turn into the depression monster, which can turn into the taking your life monster. But the truth is, it's not the monster that's taking your life. It's yourself. But that's the issue. You can't always tame that monster by yourself. Sometimes you need a team to train that monster and teach it to sit and let you live your life. But it's hard, right? It's not easy to always ask for help. Because unfortunately, there's a stigma around asking for help. That you should feel ashamed or afraid to ask for help, for you'll be judged or looked down upon. Well, today we're getting rid of that stigma of asking for help, because it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach up and grab that helping hand. For asking for help is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it shows that you are strong to admit that you don't know all the answers to life's problems thrown your way. You're strong enough to be vulnerable. You're strong enough to encounter those really uncomfortable emotions head on. And sometimes they can relapse, as I did. Unfortunately, my mom was admitted into rehab nearly 2 weeks ago today. And I was in that scary position that many people are, to take a right or left. A right, going to the same thing I was last year, bawling all those emotions and problems, stuffing them, not getting the help I know I need. Or taking a left. As I did, I knew I was in despair. I immediately reached out to my counselors, an amazing woman of the name of Laura Klinker, who I hope is watching right now, and reassured me of the support and love I have behind me and that every single one of you have. I don't care if you don't feel it, you do. Everyone is in your group and they're supporting you, standing behind you and with you. And at the end of the day, I'm here for you. And I always will be, for I don't want anyone to have to deal with the pain I did last year when you can nearly ask for help. And always remember, it's okay to ask for help. You know why? Because strong people ask for help. Thank you.
All right. I'm about to paint a scenario I believe many of you will be able to relate to. You switch on the news, the world literally looks like it's on fire. War, racism, climate change, corruption, genocide. Unfortunately, the list goes on. As always, this is a very overwhelming experience for you, and you feel helpless. And by looking at the sheer magnitude of these issues, donating to a GoFundMe page or signing a petition doesn't quite seem to be the answer. So you Google how to change the world in a day, because we're all very busy people who still would like to make a difference. But unfortunately, we don't find anything sufficient. You may come across some heartwarming initiatives around the world, but you don't see that home run solution you were looking for. My name is Jasmine Amwako-Ajay, and I'm going to tell you how to change the world in a day. I was 15 years old when I first realized that I was an American. And yes, I was born here in the US. And I know many of you may find this puzzling or comical, but really, when you're raised within the cultural context of an entirely different country, it can lead to a form of confusion, identity-wise. Being a first-generation American in a family of Ghanaian immigrants, I have always thought of myself as Ghanaian first, before ever thinking I was an American. In fact, this realization of my Americanness came about at a really pivotal point in my life. That scenario I presented earlier, I know it all too well. And each time I found myself in the trap of helplessness and hopelessness, I would wonder, what can I do to change the world? And as time went on, I only grew more discontented. My history classes only focused on a very surface, very biased selection of events, and while frustrated, I was not discouraged. The phrase, "history often repeats itself," taught me not to neglect the lessons provided by history. They exist for a reason. So I committed to a lot of self-study. Out of pure curiosity, I would pore through websites and books, reading about this civil war or that natural disaster, trying to identify any trends or connections. But most importantly, I kept asking why. And as I became more informed, I also became more confident in what I was passionate about. I like to call this the birth of my activism. A Jasmine once silenced by her own self-doubt and lack of knowledge transformed into a Jasmine who was more outspoken against and intolerant of injustice. As this happened, though, this concept of activism, this seemingly tainted yet alluring word kept swirling in my mind. Activism. Activism. Am I an activist? But what does it mean to be an activist? And isn't it taboo to call people out on their role in injustice? No, it isn't taboo. When we acknowledge the power of identity, the patterns in history, when we understand intention, the world suddenly feels so much smaller. And we realize that there is so much more that we do not know. Yes, I am an American. Yes, I am Ghanaian. Yes, I am African. Yes, I am Black. Yes, I am a woman. And all of these identities intersect to inform my passions, my perspectives, and my decision making. But most importantly, they provide me with an identity that is far more global. And it is this identity as a global citizen that helps me to recognize the interconnectivity of all of our struggles across the world. I argue that the act of protesting, of speaking up, is inherently patriotic. We cannot afford to be complacent about the status quo if the status quo is resulting in the death and suffering of so many. We need to fight for a more just, more equitable, more sustainable reality, and we owe it to future generations to do so. No, not everyone can be on the front lines, and that is absolutely okay. Everyone has a role to play in the revolution, so what can you do? First, do your homework. Become informed. Ask questions and actually listen to those whom you are trying to help. Then, speak up. Recognize your privilege and use it to serve as an ally for others. Amplify the efforts of those who are already on the ground making progress. Be intentional, always, and never stop asking why. So would I consider myself an activist? Not really. I'm a person who cares, a lot. A nerdy, artsy go-getter with a really big heart. Simply put, I believe in better. My work is far from done, and I invite you all to join me. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Solano. I find it unreal that my story inspires others, when everybody I meet inspires me in one way or another. I am purely a product of my parents' love and belief to create a nice young man who is now an older man. Today, I stand or I sit before you as a husband, a father, a public school teacher, a basketball coach, and the president of my own nonprofit organization, Solano's No Limit Hoops. But my story really started about a little over 46 years ago in a Denver area hospital with more questions than answers. What is arthrogryposis? Will my son be able to hold a pencil? Will my son be able to walk? And all they heard from the doctors were grim responses. Your son may not be able to ride a bike. Your son may not be able to drive a car. Your son may not be that independent in life. But my parents, they took me home and they gave me the love and the nurturing that I needed. They gave me the desire to be great. They never, ever let me use my handicap as a crutch. Now, I know the term handicap is not the most popular term in today's world, but they would never let me use the term disabled. They would say, David, disabled means unable. Handicap means you need to complete the task your own way. That is truly the most important part of my story, completing a task my own way. As a child, they instilled in me the motto, anything is possible in life if you work hard, David. They said, David, with your handicap, you're going to face obstacle after obstacle in your life, but you got to keep moving forward, because if you keep working, anything is possible. I was a kid, I just agreed because they were my parents. In 1980, when my parents went to enroll me at my neighborhood school for kindergarten, I was denied entrance because of my handicap. Fast forward to 1998, I was given the keys to the classroom because I was now going to be the classroom teacher at my neighborhood school. Different neighborhood, different school, different results. Because of all that hard work, anything is possible. In 1988, as a freshman in high school, I was ready for a PE class. I was excited. I was going to be in PE. I was a great athlete at that time. I was denied entrance into PE classes because of my handicap. Fast forward to 2006, I was given the keys to the basketball gymnasium because I was now the head coach for the junior high basketball team. Anything is possible when you work hard. It took a lot of work to get to this point. And when I became a coach, that was a journey in itself. I had to endure 13 no's before I got the one yes. And when I got that one yes, I just didn't walk into the gymnasium door. I busted that gym door open. I led my first team to an undefeated season and a state championship. the school's first state championship in decades. Anybody who was watching me, anybody who was listening to me was starting to learn that anything is possible if you put that work in. And that's what I was doing. My parents laid out a path, and they said, you got to stay on this path, David. Things are going to knock you down. You're going to hit speed bumps that are big, some are small. But you're going to pass them as long as you keep working. Everything you do, you have to keep working. And if you keep working, anything is possible. In 2014, I hurt my leg in a freak accident. And all of a sudden, my leg quit working as I started to rehab. And I went to doctor after doctor who said, I don't know if you're going to walk again. One doctor said, I think you might walk again. I went to therapist after therapist who said, I'm not sure if you're going to walk again. And it's tough. It is a tough one. I looked up at the sky and I said, Mom, is this another battle? Is this another obstacle? And I think I heard her reach down and tell me, just another obstacle, just another speed bump, David. We keep working at it. I believe in the power of yet. I can tell myself I'm not walking now, which shuts my brain down from working at it. I can tell my body I'm not walking yet, and it allows my brain to keep working. So I believe in the power of yet. And at this time in my life, I also started looking at my neighborhood. And I saw a lot of black and brown kids in my community starting to fail and drop out of school. And I was really upset with them. I'm like, guys, I know you're good kids because I taught you in elementary school. I know you're good kids because I saw you playing basketball and I coached a lot of you guys. We can't fail. And they said, Coach, there's nowhere for us to go in the evenings. There's nowhere in our community that we can afford to go play at. Everything costs a lot of money. And I said, we got to change this. And I went around and I searched everywhere to help build a program. Everybody told me no again. One man said, you know what, I think I can help you create a nonprofit organization to open something up for the kids. And I said, let's go work at it. Within a month, we had our own nonprofit. And he said, David, what do you want to name it? And I had no clue. And he said, we have to name it No Limit Hoops. Because when those doctors gave your parents all those gym responses, you surpassed all those limits that they gave you. Now you're teaching the kids in your neighborhood that anything is possible if they keep reaching for the sky. Their neighborhood doesn't determine how far they're going to make it in life. Their skin color doesn't determine how far they're going to make it in life. You're teaching them that if they work hard, they're going to achieve greatness. And so we have to name it No Limit Hoops. And so now every 2 nights a week in my neighborhood, I'm teaching my kids anything is possible if you put the work in. But nothing is possible if you don't put the work in. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. What a weird yet happy time it is. New president-elect, holiday spirit, and pandemic time. I'm going to go ahead and start off with a thinking activity where we can all engage together as an audience to see what we have in common. Now, think back to the time where you last held a paintbrush or a crayon. Was that yesterday? Was that 5 years ago? Some of us can't even remember because it's been such a long while. Now, do you ever catch yourself doodling at the corner of your paper during an interview, meeting, or class? Makes the time more enjoyable, huh? Now, do you ever catch yourself taking a picture in front of a downtown Phoenix mural? If you do, you probably have a picture looking like somewhat like this in your camera roll, and it's completely a-okay, my friends, because I'm sure we all have that. All right, my friends, I'm here to tell you that every child is an artist, and Pablo Picasso was 100% correct about that, as my scholars and scholars all over the world have been creating art and inspiring me, especially right now, during this pandemic time. They have been creating these fantastic artworks that have literally inspired me not only to be a better educator, but to be a better human. I currently work at a trauma recovery district. A little insight about that is where I work with scholars between the ages of 5 to 12 years old who are part of the McKinney Veto Act, meaning they're homeless, they're in foster care systems, and or they have been sexually, physically, or mentally abused any worse cases. Therefore, access to art supplies is at the back of their heads and they don't think about that. Some of them don't even have a pencil. Yet they were so motivated to create art. And I'm like, how? When you don't have a pencil? But that, my friends, motivated me to create these art lessons for them where they can make them outside and bring them at home because, my friends, art is everywhere. They started making these fantastic paintings from natural spices. So what they would do is they would use turmeric, cayenne pepper, and regular pepper, mix it in with water, and compile. They even made these beautiful mandalas out of leaves, rocks, and flowers. And I was like, wow. I was so excited because they were not only just making art, but they were expressing their emotions, their thinking process, and their trauma through this. But it made me wonder, if they didn't have art, how else would they express themselves? Poetry? That's an art. Language arts? That's an art. Math and science won't always be an outlet for many. In 2017, a theory was conducted by the University of Chicago stating that art learning experiences can help a young child's social-emotional competencies. So what does that mean? The art literally helps a child with their social and emotional well-being. It strengthens their neuroplasticity, and it also helps the child development. So, my friends, I will always be an advocate for the arts. It is currently saving my scholars' lives. It has saved people that I knew, and it's currently saving mine. Art is an outlet to express your emotions, your feelings, and your trauma. I will always fight for art to be treated like any other core classes, like math and science, because art, my friends, is important. So therefore, I will leave you with the quote I stated in the beginning and 2 questions. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. And my question to you, my friends, what are you going to do to continue the artistic skill set that has been buried for a while? And what are you going to do to inspire the younger generation to keep on creating? Thank you, and bye.
Mirrors, a common object used oh so often in our everyday lives, from when we brush our teeth in the morning, to when we do our hair, to when we switch lanes on the highway, at least hopefully. Mirrors seem nearly unavoidable in our day-to-day, but they're such a useful tool for more than one reason. But at what point does that tool become a weapon? A weapon we use on ourselves, when we notice that pimple, when we wish we had a different nose shape, when we think we gained some weight. In those moments when it feels like our reflection is staring right back at us. Throughout the last couple of years, I have constantly struggled with how I looked at myself, going all the way back to my freshman year of high school when I was 5'4", 182 pounds, marking me as clinically obese. And during this time, I struggled with low self-esteem, insecurity, and just felt sort of lost. And it was like this for the longevity of my freshman year until something changed one summer night. I was laying in my bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I thought to myself, you're not doing the things you want to do, nor being the person you want to be solely because of your weight. Now, looking back at it, I can't help but wonder if my weight was ever actually the real problem, but what I did know was that I was not happy with where I was, and that my weight was one thing I knew I could change. So I did exactly that. Throughout my sophomore year, I lost a ton of weight, over 40 pounds actually. I was watching my body change, my confidence grow, and felt like things were coming together. When I hit my goal weight at the time, I was proud beyond words. There are very few things that feel better than setting out to do something and then actually doing it. Now, in this moment, I felt like I did it. This is it. My internal struggles with body image end here. I'm happy with where I am, and I intend on staying here. But I could not have been more wrong. You see, I was absolutely terrified of gaining back my weight because I felt like if I gained back my weight, I would gain back my old thoughts and feelings along with it regardless. I sort of connected who I was my freshman year solely to my weight. So one thing I did to lose a lot of the weight was track my calories. So every single day, I logged what I ate on my phone, and at the end of every week, I logged what my weight was. Even after losing all the weight, I still tracked my calories to help keep the weight off, which worked for a while, but after a period of time, it drastically changed my perception of food. I started no longer looking at a slice of bread as just a slice of bread, but as 100 calories or as a mile on the treadmill. Whether or not I stayed under my calories for the day was a made day success or not. I cared more about the number on the scale than the way in which I was living, and this led to me developing a really unhealthy relationship with food, eventually starting up a cycle of binge eating, where I would drastically reduce my calories during the week and then splurge on food at the end of the week. It felt like an endless cycle of me feeling horrible for not eating enough and then feeling sick for eating too much. And I luckily broke out of this habit, but soon after, a new one took its place. So at the end of my senior year of high school, I was in a very bad place mentally. I was in a constant state of self-doubt and kept all my feelings bottled up inside myself. I closed myself off from others and left myself alone with just me and my thoughts, and those thoughts were tearing me down from the inside out. It got so bad to the point where I absolutely hated what I saw in the mirror, and I would do nearly anything to change how I looked as fast as I could. And these thoughts eventually drove to me developing bulimia, where at its worst, I was throwing up to 11 times in 3 days. And at this point, I wasn't even binge eating anymore. I was simply throwing up because I no longer wanted the food in my system. I completely villainized food into being the reason I looked at myself the way I did, and this went on for months. And it's such a debilitating feeling, doing something every single day, knowing it's hurting you, but just doing it anyway. Now, I can't pinpoint the exact moment when I stopped making myself get sick, but what I do know is that all my experiences have shown me that recovering, whether it be with an eating disorder or anything else, is not easy, and it is not linear by any means. Oftentimes, the most difficult battles we fight are the ones we have with ourselves, and this because it is so easy to be our own worst critic. Now, I'm not necessarily thankful for everything I've been through, but I am not ashamed of it, because without my past, I would not be my present. Trauma does not leave us the same as we were before, but do not trip over something that's behind you. There's a reason you're past it, because it's so difficult to heal if you keep going back to the things that hurt you in the first place. You did not come this far only to come this far. So be mindful of how you treat others and how you treat yourself, because of the simple fact that the mirror is not a reflection of how you feel. Now, I'd be lying to you if I told you I no longer have those days that feel a bit harder than the others. But in those moments, I try to remember that I am who I am in this moment. I look how I look in this moment. I feel how I feel in this moment, because the person I am right now can be completely different 5 years from now, 5 months from now, or even 5 minutes from now. So much of what happens in our lives is out of our control, but that doesn't mean things have to spiral out of control. We hold so much power in the palms of our hands, so it's important to recognize how in control you really can be. So take each day step by step, where sometimes the first step is the hardest one. Because even on those days where it feels nearly impossible to get up out of bed, remember that you're waking up to a new day. And it is exactly that, a new day. Thank you.
Now, weren't our speakers amazing?
Yay, give him a hand of applause. Today, we had experienced multiple stories from multiple different walks of life. The whole purpose of Ignite is to inspire, enlighten, and yes, ignite your passion. I hope that these stories had created new empathy and kindness, especially in today's troubling world, and hope you can follow in the same footsteps. And now you can with us too if you plan to participate and inspire with us as well.
So, save the date. March 4th will be our Spring Ignite, and our application will go live soon. So go follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, to get the link. And with that, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.